Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. Yes, I am aware of the fact that I'm wearing the same black top that I wore in the last two videos. However, bear in mind that I did all these videos about 10, 15, 20 minutes apart. So it's all on the same day and I don't change my clothes just to make it look like it's a new day. So whenever you see me wearing the same outfit in consecutive videos, just bear in mind that I do a few, because this Thursday and Friday I will have my grandson one day and my granddaughter and one of my granddaughters on Friday, and there's just no way I can do a video, so I just like to have a few when I know that I'll have something like that going on. I don't even know what to do a video on today, to be honest with you. Boy, things are every day there's something more ridiculous than the day before. And I know you know I'm talking about you know who. You know, there's some days I just can't, I just don't want to deal with it. You know, I just want to tune out. I mean, I'm a responsible person. I make sure that I have all my ducks in order to vote and to make sure that I boycott this or protest that or attend, you know, town halls and try to spread the word as much as I can. But there are just days where I just need a break and I can't. I have to do something fun, or because I have to keep my vibration. I don't know. I have to keep my self in a higher level while still doing the things that I need to do. And I know sometimes some of you guys also, you don't want to tune in just to see bad news, you know, or you know how I feel. But sometimes you just want to see pretty tarot decks, so you just want to learn tarot because that's your diversion. So I thought today, well, I wasn't sure what I was going to do until just the second. But, you know, when I started with tarot, I couldn't afford, you know, well, first of all, the beautiful handcrafted decks from Italy and like from Giordano Berti and Marco Benedetti and Il Meneghello and Tarot Sheet Revival and Yves Renaud and anyone else who makes wonderful decks that I overlooked their name. I apologize. They weren't even on my radar. You know, I'm talking like 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. I wasn't even aware of them. And so the only decks that were really available to me were mass-produced decks that I could get at the local store or, you know, when Amazon became a thing, through Amazon and then eBay, you know, kind of thing. So I have a whole lot of decks, a ton of decks that are mass-produced decks, and they were my staple. And this one deck in particular, and I may have bought a few copies of this because I did move cross-country, and I did have a mishap with decks when I moved cross-country. Something happened, and I was pretty bummed out. A couple of my decks were damaged, so I had to replace them. I think this is one that I had to replace, but it was my Spanish tarot, and I used this deck for decades because there weren't too many PIP decks available. They just weren't, you know, available in the United States, you know, because we didn't play tarot games here. We didn't play tarot tournaments here. So we didn't even know about tarot as a game. And by the time it came to our shores, we only realized it or thought about it as divination. That's it, you know. So, and it was all Rider-Waite Smith. So kind of a person like me in the 70s was kind of like a, yeah, kind of not the typical person that was interested in tarot. But I had just attached myself to PIP style cards, and that's all I really want. That's how I taught myself. I had my 1JJ Swiss deck for a number of years before I ever got another deck. So I learned how to use that, you know, and then I just wanted to use other decks that were similar. So the very few and far in between that popped up in, you know, bookstores, or when I grabbed them, and they never really had too many of them in bookstores because nobody was buying them. Everyone was buying, you know, Rider-Waite Smith. So at any rate, I just thought I would show you the Spanish Tarot by Fournier. It was one of my favorite decks, and it still is. It's still one of my, I guess you could say it's one of my long-term crushes. You know, Masha asked me what my long-term crushes were, and I said I didn't think I had 11 long, you know, well, they're like, I think her video that she dropped or somebody else dropped was, the video challenge was, what are your current 11 crushes? But I don't have like current crushes. I have crushes that are like long-term, you know. If a deck is my crush, it's going to be my crush for a long time. And this is definitely one of my long-term crushes. Now, I showed you, I think in another video, how the colorful Tarot of Marseille by Fournier looked, and almost like jewels, right? The beautiful colors in the 9-card spread with the 4 additional cards. So I think I just want to show, I don't know if I'm going to have a question or not. I'll just lay the cards and show how this card looks in my signature spread layout. It's a great spread. I hope some of you have been using it to do interpretations, and I try to do enough videos explaining showing how I do a read with it, so that you understand how it speaks. You know, the positions, there aren't positional meanings. I let the spread tell me what I'm supposed to know regarding an issue. Sometimes, however, it's not that way. Sometimes a client in particular, or sometimes myself, you know, I'll have a few aspects of a question that I need answered. And I yield to the cards to just answer those 3 aspects, and then I then I interpret the cards to, in the context of the question, to answer those questions. But most of the time, I just let it speak to me and tell me what I'm supposed to know. So let me go off, try to come up with a question, and we'll lay the cards just to see how they handle and how they look. And if you're in the market for a TDM deck and you don't want to spend a lot of money, I do list several decks on my channel. Excuse me, not on my channel, on my website, tarotclarity.com. If you go under lessons, I list decks that I think are appropriate, that you don't have to, they're not fancy decks. They're all mass-produced decks. So I list a bunch, and I'm sure this is one of them. And if it isn't, tell me and I'll add it, because this is a great pip deck. Well, truth be told, I'm drawing a blank, so I think I'm just going to ask the universe to communicate through me with the cards what we need to hear. Now, what we need to do, what we need to hear, please, dear universe, deliver a message to us that we need to hear. I'm going to go off into my place, concentrate. I'll be right back. Okay, dear universe, spell it out for us. What is it that we need to hear? Could be good news. We're not averse to hearing good news. Hopeful news. We're not adverse to hearing that. And certainly if there's something that's going on behind the scenes somewhere that determines our health and well-being, we need to hear that too. But please, dear universe, whatever it is you see fit that we need to hear right now, please tell us. Interesting. See if either of those cards pop up in the spread. I hope not. I'd love to get a little bit of a break with some good news for a change, wouldn't you? But we have to remain alert. It's our responsibility. Well, not the same one, but close. 8 is a good number, though. It's not uneven. It's organized thought. It's organized thought. Okay, that's all one thing. Organized thought. Protecting. Sun, happiness. Okay, we're on a roll. We're on a roll. What we need to hear. 9 of batons. Boy, oh boy. This is like the 3rd day in a row that I spoke about the 9 of batons. Isn't that interesting? Hanged Man. And this front and center. Knight of batons. Court, front and center of the core 9. Knight of batons. Page of coins. Wow. Another court card. Isn't this something? Seven of Swords. Ace of Swords. So we have only one card that is not expressed as an aggressive suit. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 swords, and we have 2 batons. So action, a lot of activity, a lot of individuals, people in positions of power, consequences, some hope, some sunshine. But is this an opportunity for the good or the bad? Let's take a look at the Quint cards, and I'll be right back with them. And by the way, isn't this deck awesome? This is beautiful. I love this deck. Well, this is kind of interesting. You notice that I have one card that's repeated 3 times, and I had to use 3 different decks to pull it because it was already in play on the board, and then it was already a quint, and then for the overall quint, it was the quint again. So when something appears more than once, at least, and sometimes it's just numbers that are repeated. So when numbers are repeated, you pay attention to them, but certainly when a triumph card is repeated 3 times, that's probably the first thing you need to look at. At least that's how I see it. And it's interesting because visually they're all on one row. And it's like, in case you miss it here, pay attention here. And then in case you miss that one, look at this one. Punishment. Behaviors have consequences. So it looks as though there's I'm not even looking at the other cards, but we do see justice here, and we see the sword, and we see the suggestion of uprising, or things being more vocal, or people standing up more, or collective voices taking an opportunity toward justice. People in position, maybe the military taking a stand, I don't know. But it seems as though there's going to be a reckoning for somebody. And I did ask for all of us something that we all needed to hear. Some type of, whatever message it was that the universe saw fit for us to hear. Now, I don't know if it's good or bad. Good or bad news. I know we're hopeful that it means good news. We do have the sun card right up there. And on that same level, we have lessening of some toxicity up there. So I'm thinking maybe we're getting a glimmer of sunshine. I don't think whatever happens is going to probably be enough to remove the orange stain, as I referred to it in an earlier video that I think I released a day or 2 ago. But I'm encouraged to believe that there might be action or communication or an organized effort to bring consequences to the court, right? To the court, and for justice, which is the last of the cards before we get to the quint. So I'm not going to spell everything out because I don't think I need to. I think you guys are savvy enough to, from what I already just mentioned, I think you're savvy enough to take it from there, So hopefully that's a good news. Hopefully it's good news. I'm not looking for anybody to get hurt. Just looking for information and I didn't ask for anything that we need to do. I just asked the universe to give us the message we need to hear. Behaviors have consequences, and perhaps, that's a warning for us too, to bear in mind that anything that we do, can and will be held against us. You know what I'm saying? But because the sun card is there, because it looks like organization and action towards justice and retribution in court, the people in power, and detoxification to some level. I see it as a positive message. We need something to look forward to anyway. It may be on a small scale, but at least it'll be something. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, and be kind. And let's hope this is good news for us collectively.